Hey there, welcome back to the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. My name is Sam Hind, and today we're going to be talking about how to stop the scroll. We're going to talk about how to get people to stop scrolling through Facebook and pay attention to your post. Now, there are some tricks and tips to helping you achieve this, and it's really, really important to know how you might be able to go about doing that because Facebook has become such a busy place. Particularly over this last 12 months, the usage of Facebook has grown even further. There are more and more people every day spending longer and longer on Facebook and Instagram. So what do you do to get people to stop and pay attention to what you're posting? Well, I've got a few little tips to help you with this today. And I'd love to encourage you to jot them down and remember them so that next time you are sitting down to schedule in your post of the week, you can consider, how am I actually going to get people to pay attention to what I'm doing? How am I going to grab their attention? So let's dive on in and we're going to get stuck in to how we stop the scroll. So I want to start off by talking a little bit about attention spans. Human attention spans have decreased significantly over the last, I'm going to say 10 years, as we have gone into a space where social media has taken over our world. Do you know, I remember telling my kids only very recently about, we've been sitting down and watching a bit of Friends with them. They've sort of got to that age where they can appreciate the humor and they feel like they're, spending some quality time with us. So we'll sit down with them after dinner and we'll watch an episode most nights of the week and we all have a bit of a giggle together as a family. I love reminiscing, but it's really fun watching our teenage kids having a laugh over something I loved watching at their age. But here's where it gets really interesting. The kids will often ask us for another episode, and my answer will always be no. You've had one, it's great to look forward to something. And I realized our kids do not understand the whole process of waiting. They are so used to this instant gratification in everything that they do. And I tried to explain to them that when I was a kid, Friends was on once a week on TV, and you had to be at the TV at the time that it started or you simply missed it. And you would have to wait a whole nother week for the next half an hour episode. They simply couldn't understand this process. I'm sure that as you think about your kids, you can totally get where their whole process has changed from where we were at when we were the same age. Now, the thing is that we too have changed. We are really used to be able to get instant gratification now. This means that if you want to be entertained, you jump onto one social media platform, and if it doesn't entertain you, you go to another. Or if you go to your Facebook feed and you don't see something you like, you keep scrolling because you know eventually something is going to grab your attention. So basically what this means is human attention spans have significantly reduced. You now have approximately 3 seconds to get the attention of somebody before they make a decision to move on. So this is why when Facebook is looking at video view content, it considers a view anything over 3 seconds because it knows that 3 seconds or less, really less than 3 seconds, is a scroll past. So if someone sits on your video for just 3 seconds, Facebook counts that as a view. Crazy, right? Because to me, that's not a view of a video, but this is where our world has gone. So my point here being that we don't have very long to get somebody's attention. Now, one of the very first jobs I ever did was in cold calling. Now, some of you totally get where I'm going with this because you've done it before. But for those of you that haven't, let me just say it is one of the roughest jobs you can ever do. I used to go from door to door, business to business, selling junk out of a duffel bag that the company would give me at the beginning of the day. And it was commission only. Now, we used to get given a block that we would do, and it was all businesses. And it was our job that day to go and try and sell everything that we had in the boot of our car. So we would walk around with our duffel bag and we would try and get people to buy our wares. And it would be anything from, rubbishy perfume through to kids' toys that I'm pretty sure never worked, knife block sets. Yup. Knife block sets, the good old steak knives. So we used to have to sell all of this stuff. And the thing that I learned really quickly, and this would have been 20 years, nearly 20 years ago. So we're talking way before social media came into play. Now, the thing that I learned really quickly was that I had approximately 7 seconds to get the attention of somebody before they made a decision to boot me out or hear me out. Now, I learned that to get them to hear me out, I couldn't talk about myself. It wasn't about why I was there, what I had to sell, who I was. If I started with, hi, my name is Sam, and this is why I'm here today, I was out. My 7 seconds were gone, and I was out that door like a shot. The way to get them to stop and listen to what I had to say was to talk about them, was to establish commonality and talk about them, get them talking about themselves because they are their favorite subject. Now, as soon as I got them doing that, I knew I had as long as I wanted. My 7 seconds turned into 7 minutes, would turn into 20 minutes if I wanted it to. But the key was to find a way to get them to talk about themselves. And this hasn't changed. But it's a long lost and I think very forgotten art when it comes to connecting with people. We're so used to talking about us that we forget about them. So one of the things I really want to encourage you to think about when you're creating not just your posts on social media, but any marketing that you might do in your business, no matter whether you are a solopreneur and you're just starting out with your party plan or network marketing business, or maybe you're a team leader and you've been doing this for a really long time, you might have other marketing activities that you're playing with. It might be connecting with people by picking the phone up, etc. It might just be building relationships with people. But from making new friendships right through to making those first cold connections with people, your key is always going to be, how do I get them to talk about themselves? It is natural to want to talk about us. How do we get them to talk about them? This is why engagement posts, which we're not going to talk about today, but these are one of the most powerful forms of social media posts that you can do because they get your customer talking about themselves and they help you build that all-important relationship as well. So I want to start by giving you a couple of ways to use those 3 seconds wisely on social media. Now, all of these or one of these could be the ones that you want to try. I'm just going to give you a few little options to play with. But here are a few things that I know have absolutely worked with us, and I also have observed these things make me stop too. So the first one is try using different filters with your images, such as, and this is my favorite, black and white. Black and white makes people stop in their tracks because Facebook is so busy and filled with color that a black and white image generally is a pattern interrupter. It stops people in their tracks and makes them look twice because it isn't what they've been seeing as they're scrolling through. So black and white is a really great thing to use if you want to have a bit of a play and see if it works. It's very easy to turn any of your images into black and white, but you can also play with some other filters too. Another type of image filter that I think works really well also, if you can use this, is 3D. Now, I've had a lot of people ask, how do I do 3D? Because they've seen me doing it on our page. The cool thing is if you have got the portrait setting on your phone, and most recent iPhones, so I think it's iPhone 10, 11, and 12 will all generally have portrait setting. Also, if you have a recent Samsung, you may also have the portrait setting on there as well. If you upload an image on your phone, you can only do this on your phone, by the way. If you upload an image on your phone to Facebook, it will give you an option up the top corner that says, make this 3D. Tap that button, and basically what will happen is as someone scrolls through their feed, the image moves almost like You remember those old images? I can't remember what you call it. Holographic. It makes it look a little bit holographic. So you remember those things as a kid, the images you used to see where the image would change as you moved it? It's a bit like that. It's really cool and it just makes you want to look. So I really love 3D because, again, it stops people in their tracks. Okay, this brings me to the next point, which is very similar to what I was just talking about, but movement. Now, I want to bring movement into this because it can be done in a number of different ways. Movement absolutely can be something like turning your image 3D. You may not have the ability to do that though. No stress. There's a number of other ways to incorporate movement into your images. Video isn't obvious. So doing a little bit of video content, I harp on this. Video is not only a great way to stop people in their tracks, but it's also favored by Facebook over static images. So if you can do a bit of video here and there, I highly recommend you make it a standard part of your social posting strategy. Maybe once a week, try and incorporate a video element in there if you can. It can be done in lots of different ways, including, you could do a live, you could do a video of you, but if you don't feel comfortable doing that, do something as simple as, maybe videoing your hands doing a recipe, or even do a boomerang. Boomerang's a great way to incorporate a bit of movement as well. It's a free app. Download it, have a play with it. You can also do things like turning still images into video using apps like Animoto. Now, again, I mention Animoto a lot because I love it. It's super easy to use and you can use it on your desktop, also on your mobile phone. What we'll do, we'll pop a little link to a free trial to Animoto in the show notes if you want to get in and check that out. Everyone I recommend to it is a convert. They love it. So get in and have a look at that one. But Animoto will basically take those images in your gallery on your phone. I like to call it my photo graveyard. It takes them and pops them. You can pop them into a really easy drag and drop video, and you can put a bit of music with it, text overlay, and they've got all sorts of cool templates in there that are really easy to use. I don't know about you, but I often find that when I'm scrolling through my gallery on my phone, I find all these images that I took at the time thinking this could be great for social media and then forgot about. And so that's why I call it my image graveyard. And so I like to use Animoto every now and again to recycle some of those images in. I've also got into the habit of loading my images into a Dropbox file ready for social media each week. So I literally have them in this file that I can access on my PC, and I can just play with those images over time so that I'm not wasting any great content that I've created and put my time and effort into. So come up with an idea that you like. You can also load them into the Creator Studio as drafts as well. So you don't have to know what you want to use it for yet, but you can load them into drafts and have them ready and waiting. That can save you a lot of time as well down the track. But I digress. We're talking about stopping people in their tracks. I just want to touch on one more thing when it comes to video. I mentioned before that the attention span of a human is essentially now equivalent to that of a goldfish, 3 seconds. Pretty sad and scary, I know. But here's the thing that we've got to remember when it comes to video on social media, and that is this: you don't have very long to grab their attention. Even if you do video, those first 3 seconds have to be attention grabbing. So keep a couple of things in mind. The first is, if your video must be watched with sound for it to make any sense, you need to find a way for that video to visually captivate them. So there's a couple of ways of doing that. You can do something within the movement that grabs their attention, but you can also subtitle your video, and this might also help with that process. We like to use a subtitle program called Zubtitle. It's really easy to use, and that allows us to really quickly subtitle everything that we want to so that people can read it even without sound. We know that 70% or more of Facebook users will watch videos without sound on. So keep in mind, if your sound is what grabs attention, find another way as well to grab the attention within those first 3 seconds if you can. So let's talk about the next way to get people to stop in their tracks. This one's pretty simple, but also something I think we overlook a lot because it seems like it's pointless. It's not. Emojis. Now, emojis can seem kind of immature and childish, but guess what? Images are processed by the brain 60,000 times faster than words, than text. So emojis actually play a really big part in your grabbing people's attention on social media. As much as they may seem childish or immature or unprofessional or whatever you want to call it, they can be very powerful. Now, I don't love seeing them overused, but I do definitely think that they've got an important part to play here and there within your text, because essentially you can create words with the images. You can even replace certain words with an appropriate image if it's really clear what it's going to mean. So play with emojis. They are more likely to grab people's attention and get them to stop and actually read your post. So this then brings me to the next point, which is that majority of your text, if you go over around about 2 lines, and I think it's 70 odd characters, I need to check on that, but I think it's around 70 odd characters now. If you go over that, people will need to click the see more button. Now, if they click the see more button, they'll be able to read all of your text. But it basically, if you go over those first 2 lines, it's all people are going to see initially, which means in order to get people to click that see more button, you need to grab their attention with your first 2 lines. And the best way to do that is to create curiosity and intrigue. Basically, don't tell them everything they need to know, but create a bit of curiosity so that they cannot help themselves, but they want to click that see more button. Alternatively, keep your text to those first 2 lines and don't go over that. That way, no matter whether they click or not, they can see everything as they're scrolling. So creating curiosity, guys, so powerful. And the easiest way is don't give away the farm. Don't tell them everything. Just get them curious for a little bit more. The best way to do this, by the way, is to know what your audience want and then almost give it to them. So we talk a lot about getting to know your ideal customer, understanding what makes them tick, knowing what's important to them, knowing what their values are, knowing what problems they have in life. Once you know these things, it's very easy to tap into something that matters to them and then almost give them what they want so that they just want that little bit more from you, kind of leave them hungry. So creating curiosity, massively powerful. Now, the last point I want to touch on here to get people to stop their scroll is shock. Anywhere you can create a bit of shock is going to stop them. There are lots of ways to do this, by the way. Shock can be created through your image. It can be created through your text. It can be created through curiosity. You want to be very careful how you incorporate it, because you obviously don't want to leave people with a bad taste in their mouth. But shock can be one of the most powerful tools you ever use on social media. Now, a really great way to incorporate shock is to ask for opinions or put out there controversial topics. Now, you've got to be very careful with controversial topics because you definitely don't want to leave people feeling they've got to pick or choose. You don't want people to go, they either love you or they hate you, and you alienate people that would be your ideal customers. But the great thing about controversial topics is it can also help you attract the right people and get rid of the wrong people as well. So knowing where your line is pretty important here. But a controversial topic is also great when you have the ability to fence it. So if you can ask a question, ask for people to have some healthy conversation about a topic that might have some relevance to you without giving your opinion away, is a really great way of letting people have a little conversation that can be really healthy without people feeling like you're preaching to them, if you like. So shock can be done, like I said, loads of different ways. Your imagery, video, what you're saying, but also you can bring to the forefront some controversial topics and allow the conversation to come up. So you can have a really good play in this space. But what I encourage you to do, no matter what, guys, this is the key to working out how you are ideally going to stop the scroll, is to get curious and pay attention to what other people are doing. One of my fun little personal activities I like to do, if I'm sitting at home on the couch or I'm having my lunch, I'll usually allocate myself, maybe I try to be really specific about the time that I do this with, because you can go into this rabbit warren if you're not careful. I usually allocate myself 5 to 10 minutes and I'll sit down and I'll scroll through my Facebook feed, and every post that grabs my attention, I screenshot. I pop it into a little folder, and when I get a little bit of time once a week, I actually sit there and I have a look and analyze these posts and have a look at what it was that stopped me. Why did I pause on these particular images? You'll notice that a lot of them as well are sponsored adverts, and they can be super clever how some of these companies get you to stop. And usually the reason they get you to stop is because they get you, they understand you. So get a little bit curious, pay attention to what other people are doing. Have a little bit of a scroll, have a little bit of a play, take some screenshots and pay attention. What are other people doing to get you to stop your scroll? It's going to help you learn a lot, and it's really going to help you to give you some things to play with as you go forward with your social media strategy. Okay, so I'm just going to go back and repeat those pointers I gave you to help you to get people to stop the scroll. The first one was try some filters on your images, such as black and white, or even using 3D if you've got the portrait setting on your phone. You can play with other filters as well, but I'll just caution you not to over-filter everything. One of the keys to getting people to stop their scroll is to do something different. So if you do the same thing all of the time, it's less likely to get people to stop. The other thing is consistency as well. So you don't want to do something particularly on Instagram that makes your images look completely inconsistent to one another. So for example, you wouldn't use a tan filter. I'm not the right wording here. I know what I'm talking about. You don't want to use a colored filter and then go black and white and then normal and then another colored filter and change it all around. On Instagram, it is really important that you're consistent so that your grid looks all right when people are looking at your profile. Again, that's something we'll cover in another episode, but I just want to encourage you to be a little bit mindful about your Instagram feed if you're going to be playing in this space. If you're going to use filters and you're going to change them up a lot and test them, probably better to do that over in Facebook and be a bit more consistent on the Instagram side of things. So that first one was have a bit of a play with different filters such as black and white. When you settle on something that really works for you, you may even want to use that as your standard type of a filter in Instagram. So black and white. The next one is movement. That could be by using Boomerang or video or Animoto, etc. I'll pop that link into the show notes for you. The next is emojis. Get in and have a play with using them where appropriate. You shuffle them around, use them every now and again to replace a word. Make sure it's really clear though what you're trying to say. The next point is curiosity. Create curiosity and intrigue to get people to just want to read a little bit more. So don't give away the farm, know what they want, and then almost give it to them. And the last one is shock. Creating shock is a great way to get people to stop and pause. And don't forget, be curious. Watch what other people are doing. I hope this has been a little bit inspiring today. It's given you a few fresh ideas, tips, and tricks. But just remember, you do not have long to grab people's attention. You've got 3 seconds to get their attention as they're scrolling through at the most. So think about how you can stand out from everybody else out there on social media. How can you be heard amongst the noise? Because you are worth hearing. So I hope this has been helpful today. I hope you got a few little notes, helpful hints and tips, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye for now.